Jeremy Lin in Toronto. You have Mason Plumlee in Denver, Sean Livingston in Golden State, obviously, and Kenneth Faried with the Rockets. I mean, those are 5 guys who were Nets in the last 5 years, all playing deep in the playoffs. So the Nets had those pieces, but it's nice that they're able to do this at their own pace on their own terms. If you had to pick any one of those 5 guys, who would you want to see hoist that Larry O'Brien trophy?
Oh, I think it by default, Brook, right? Brook
Yeah,
Lopez.
yeah. Oh,
No
yeah.
contest.
I think you make great points, and it's something I was thinking about last night. Like, there's a lot of old Nets on this team, and I think that's a testament to their culture right now. A lot of those guys weren't around when Sean Marks and Kenny Atkinson had taken over, so here they are on other teams being contributors. Even like you look at a Bojan Bogdanovic being one of Indiana's best players, and Thaddeus Young. Like, those guys didn't have that chance to thrive here when Billy King was the GM, and they went through like 5 different coaches in 5 years. So the obvious answer there, Jason, is Brook Lopez. But again, when you see all these guys in the playoffs, I don't think it's a bad sign. I think if anything, it's a testament to their culture, like I mentioned.
So, last thing before we let you go, we have a couple questions for you. We're going to put you kind of on the hot seat here, Pooch, which is, first of all, if you could get any free agent this offseason, who would you want to get? That's the first one.
I guess, considering the circumstances, I obviously think KD is the best available free agent, but I would say Kawhi Leonard, just because that's the best chance of keeping D'Angelo and getting a superstar. I think he fits in perfectly. I mentioned, the culture, attitude, the high character, the fact that he doesn't go, saying crazy things in the media or anything like that. He fits perfect here in Brooklyn.
Great. And then the second question is, who do you think they ultimately end up with? Do they get 2 guys? Do they get Russell and one of those guys? Or how do you see this ultimately playing out at this stage? We won't hold you to it.
Oof. I'm going to go out on a limb and say they get Kawhi.
Ooh. Jason, what are your thoughts on that?
Pooch Stradamus. I would love Kawhi Leonard. I mean, obviously there's ties with Marks and Langdon, and Tiago Splitter was his teammate. He spent some time. He's got an uncle based out in New Jersey who was his advisor. So there are ties to Brooklyn. And you said this earlier, Pooch. He would probably be the best signing for them to also keep Russell and add to what they have. But the question is Brooklyn's core better than Toronto's? You have an aging Kyle Lowry. You have Ibaka. You have Siakam, who's an up-and-coming player. Would Leonard leave that to join Allen, Russell, Harris, Dinwiddie, and, LeVert? That's the big question. But we'll see what happens, obviously. We'd love to have you back on, around the draft and free agency if you'll have us. By then, you'll probably, have your own, afternoon drive talk show. So
undoubtedly.
I'm always more than glad to hop on, fellas.
Pooch, I heard Desus and Mero are looking for a third co-host, so maybe you can make your move to Showtime and really make a trifecta of New York sports.
Oh yeah, I'd really have to note that accent, huh?
Pooch, it's a pleasure as always. Everyone, check them out. NetsDaily.com, SNY.TV. We're proud of you, buddy. Keep making those strides, and we appreciate you taking the time for us. And enjoy the off season. Take a couple weeks off, and then we'll laugh together when the Knicks don't land the number 1 pick.
Guys, it's always a pleasure, and I look forward to being back on soon.
And of course, and everyone, please make sure again you go to SNY.TV. You can go to the Nets page. Right now, it is on the front page. Anthony Puccio writing about why the Nets have a shot at some of these big free agents. It's a great piece, Pooch. We love having you on, and good luck. We look forward to reading you all summer.
Anything else you want to plug before you go?
Man, just follow me on Twitter at apooch. Everything you need is right there for you. I appreciate you guys plugging me in and the support all season long.
Well, we appreciate you as always for coming on the show. So that's Anthony Puccio, ladies and gentlemen. And Ben, I mean, what better way to have a Nets postmortem than our own guy, Anthony Puccio? Fantastic interview once again.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, the Nets are going to be a big factor, and this could be the end of the little brother era of the Nets and Knicks. I mean, I think for a really long time, this has been kind of a one basketball team town. And I mean, I hate to say it, but I just feel like the casual New York sports fan doesn't regard the Nets. And I think that could change. If they get a free agent and the Knicks strike out this year, that is a real chance for them to kind of take on some of the fans and really create their own legacy here in Brooklyn. And I'm excited to watch it, honestly. I mean, I think it would be great to see basketball in Brooklyn grow that way, and just to see this Nets team. It's so much fun. It would be such a great story.
Oh, it would be a fantastic story. Pooch was great, as always. But now I think it's time to kind of put the Nets away for a little bit because we're being selfish to the rest of these glorious NBA playoff games that are happening right now. We are officially entrenched in the second round of the NBA playoffs in both conferences. And before we get to the second round, we'd be doing a disservice to Spurs Nuggets, which we predicted would probably be the only series to go 7. And boy, it did. The Nuggets squeaked it out. My question to you, Ben, is why the hell did the Spurs not foul last minute, man? What happened there?
That whole game was just a disaster for the Spurs. I mean, I don't know how many missed layups there were. I saw Patty Mills miss 2 wide open layups, one in the first quarter, one I think it was the third quarter, just wide open. I mean, there were just so many questionable decisions. For some reason, you saw it game 1 of Blazers versus Nuggets. They just refused to go to the pick and roll with Jokic, who could not stick with the ball handler. Really frustrating to watch at points in that game, given, Pop's coaching pedigree. And then, as you mentioned, Jason, the coup de grace, the last minute of the game, Spurs are down. There's not enough time left. They can't let the Nuggets dribble the clock out, and they don't foul. And they let the clock run and run and run, and they lose the game. And even the announcers were losing their minds during the game. I've never seen anything like it before. It almost felt like the team kind of forgot and then felt like they couldn't foul because they'd let too much time off. It was absolutely bizarre.
Oh, no question. But you have to give kudos to the Nuggets. I mean, we didn't think in a million years that the Rockets and the Warriors would be playing each other in the second round, but they are. And that means that Denver and Portland, one of those two teams, will be playing in the Western Conference Finals against the winner of Warriors Rockets. And if the Warriors break up at the end of the season, which we all believe that they most likely will, these are probably two of the most up-and-coming teams that could potentially take over in the top of the West. So let's start with that series. Obviously, last week, Damian Lillard was our co-hero of the week, and rightfully so for that shot that sent the Thunder home for the summer. But last night was a bit of a gritty game. The Nuggets squeaked it out. Damian Lillard vividly frustrated on the court, not really getting whistles. So what was your take on game 1 of that series?
I mean, it was really interesting. I guess I was a little surprised with some of the way that the game went overall. I did feel like the refereeing was very interesting. I mean, I don't know. There's been so much discussion of it, Jason. I mean, did you have any big takeaways of your own in that game? I'm still trying to process. There was just so much, man, and I felt almost overwhelmed during the game with so much of the action. Maybe it's the thrones and the end game stuff, but what was your big takeaway?
My big takeaway was that Damian Lillard can't do it by himself. McCollum got hot early, hit a few threes. I think Cantor was a little banged up. You saw him kind of get hurt in game 5. He had a few days to heal. But I think they kind of had to test the waters with Denver. I know they're division rivals and they play each other 4 times a year, but I think they had to get a feel for each other, and Denver's home court helped big time. All it takes, because I don't see the Blazers losing any games at home, is one win in Denver at Pepsi Center. I have Blazers in 7 in this series. I picked against the Blazers in the first round. I'm not going to do it again. So I think they kind of just need to settle down a little bit, let Dame continue to be Dame, not let him get caught up in the refs, in anything extracurricular going on. Just be himself, be that assassin that he is on the court. I think the Blazers will be fine.
I guess the only thing I thought that was weird during the game, and watching the first half of that game, the beginning of the game, it felt like they were not taking bad threes, but that they were maybe rushing those shots, and it felt like Lillard and McCollum were a little bit too willing. And not to say that they shouldn't take the shots, but it just felt like they could have gotten better stuff. It really felt like the Nuggets had absolutely no chance of guarding their pick and roll. Jokic just can't stay with those guys, and so whenever they switch with his man, they can really get whatever they want, and I kind of felt like they settled. And I know we've moved to the jump shooting era where the threes are, one of the best shots, but, I think it was Jeff Van Gundy who was saying on one of the telecasts, I mean, even when you take those in, still the best shots are layups, dunks, or free throws. That's still the most efficient shot, really. And I thought that the Blazers kind of settled for jumpers. And if the Nuggets turn this into a run and gun series, they have a real shot at winning. And I thought that the Blazers kind of let the Nuggets dictate the style of play too much in game one. They took way too many of these kind of pull-up threes. And the thing is, they can get those shots any time, Jason. I don't want to kind of knock on the Nuggets defense, but we've seen now through two series, the Nuggets are just not a very good defensive team. And what that means is that in the half court, you can break them down and get the looks you want. And when you have two of the best pick and roll ball handlers and best players out of the pick and roll in the entire league in Lillard and McCollum, it felt a little frustrating. Maybe it's the old basketball person in me, but it just felt frustrating that they were settling for those threes time and again. I felt like they could have been getting layups and open shots more easily and really grinding down the Nuggets, and then making them take the ball out of the basket. Because one of the things you don't want to do is get those transition looks. And Murray hit a few shots in the first half from the same spot just by getting out in transition, and then the Blazers got lost. And I just felt like that was how the game kind of turned over to the Nuggets, was that the Blazers sort of gave up these shots, and I thought that was a little ill-advised. So I'm curious to see what Terry Stotts does game two, and if he slows things down a little bit.
I think Kenny Atkinson could take a page out of Stotts' book, because Stotts is great at making adjustments. After Nurkic went down, everyone left the Blazers for dead.
Yeah.
And they had home court advantage in the first round. They beat the Thunder. So I think they'll be fine. I think, the Nuggets are good, and they could potentially get even better next year. But I think Portland's too hot, and they may catch them right. Obviously, I'm no prophet. The Nuggets can end up winning the series, but I'm sticking to my guns. I'm going Blazers in 7. What say you, Benjamin?
No, I'm sticking with them. And I mean, I'll tell you something else, Jason. If they get the kind of looks that they did from 3, they're going to shoot better than they did. Lillard was 4-12. McCollum was 2-7. Most of those were pretty open looks. I would expect they're going to knock down some more of those threes. And if they do, it's going to be really tough for Denver. I mean, the key for this series for the Blazers is on defense. They could not guard Jokic, and he just tore them apart. They don't have anyone who can stick with him or Millsap down low. And those two guys just absolutely tore them apart. I think they'll make Murray take tougher shots, but it'll be up to Jokic, and Jokic has had trouble. I think the Blazers are going to win this series largely because I'm not sure Jokic wants to be a scorer, Jason. He had 37 game 1, but throughout the season we've seen that he's a reticent scorer. He likes to be a facilitator. And I think the Blazers are going to turn him into a scorer this series. And I think that could actually serve them pretty well. And if they can get their offense together, keep the game slow, I think they do win in 6 games still.
Look at us agreeing. I know I have it in 7, you have it in 6, but at least we're agreeing. Then that's a sign that we're simpatico. Now, speaking of three-pointers, we have to talk Warriors Rockets. Obviously, shout out to the Clippers. Them, along with the Spurs, are my honorary hero of the week for their amazing first-round performances after both teams were expected to miss the postseason. So shout out to the Clippers. Shout out to the Spurs. The Warriors finally turn it on in Game 6. And it's behind the play of one man. And that man has been mentioned several times on this podcast, and that's Kevin Durant. Do you want to just do this now? Do you want to just spread the love?
Oh, my gosh. I mean, we do our hero of the week, Jason. And, I mean, you put in our show notes about how he was your hero, and I was going to enter my hero, and I was like, well, I mean, who else can you pick? You simply can't pick anyone but Kevin Durant.
You could have picked Anthony Puccio.
That's true. I mean, but he's a hero every week. It's not just this week. And I mean, Durant is just otherworldly, man, and he just reminds you sometimes, oh right, when he wants to be, he could basically turn into the best offensive player on the planet. And that's what he did. That's what he's done the last few games, Jason. I mean, unless you make him into a distributor and you make him put the ball on the